The Bethesda Green Speaker Series presents People, Culture, and Building a Team with Stephen Battaglia.
A lover of culture, and I've been involved running and being part of culture and developing culture has always been part of my career because I've always worked in human resources as an HR person. And most of my career was head of HR, where it's probably the wrong thing. HR should never be the head of culture, but most businesses do that, so it's an interesting back and forth. And I've had three components of my life. So first was working for Nestle, the food business. I lived overseas for about 12 years. I spent about 25 years with Nestle, running HR departments for them from Asia. I've worked basically in every major country in the world and traveled around, and I was able to raise my family, my son and my daughter, over in Switzerland and England, and then I came back here. And after I left Nestle, they moved me to Cleveland, and it was a whole bad scene. So my wife maybe divorced, and what am I doing? And lake effect snow, we left Cleveland. And here we are, and I'm a GW grad, so came back here and I got a job at Total Wine. David and Robert Trone, I'm sure you know them, great entrepreneurs, 20 years. They've gone from zero to their business is about $1.8 billion, 150 stores. I mean, a lot of local people here think they just are in 3 states, but they're actually 28 states. And during that time with them, a lot of work on culture because they didn't know what their culture was. That's a lot of entrepreneurs have that problem. What is it? They never really thought about it. And 18 years into the business, and kind of from a little bit with the Nestle side, we got a pretty messed up culture, and they did because that's what happens when you're founders and you're entrepreneurs. You let it go. What you think is culture is not what the other people are. So did a lot of work with them, and then lastly, I've joined your ranks. So I'm a bit old in the tooth, and so corporate life is out. I'm never going to get a job anymore. So I joined your ranks, and I said, hey, why don't I do this? And I opened up my own practice in HR consulting. And I have to say, my 3 big lessons. One, I can't believe how poorly I've been treated the last 3 years in terms of, I was a big cheese. No one returns your call. Every time I go for business, no. And it was I've said to many salespeople and entrepreneurs, I had so not nearly enough respect for any of you because it's unbelievable to sit in your room, in your office, in your pajamas, and just have a list of people say no to you all day, and it's pretty humbling. And to keep into that, and 3 years into it, it's starting to come together and do things. But if I had any advice now for young people, my kids, I used to not say maybe be an entrepreneur or maybe get some corporate experience and then do the entrepreneur, but you've got to do it because it's such an important learning experience, and I don't think I would be a very good consultant without all these pieces. So anyway, that's my background. Love it. I brought some things, did a lot of work on culture, a lot of big projects with Nestle, with Total Wine, and hopefully we can help you today. So I'm looking forward. Yeah, it's a very tough question, and it goes somewhat to the reference point of the business. When you say growing, what's the priority? The revenues, watching the profits, where are the key growth areas? But I would say you're very tough on hiring. For a new entrepreneur, you want to really pressure test everything because everybody wants people, and then you align it with what's most important in the priorities, and that's usually revenue or a specific piece of the business, like we really want to get our image out or we really want to start getting the sales out. So once you kind of, that the CEO to me should pressure everybody, where are my resources? We can only hire a few people this year, and that's where you focus on. I would also say in this marketplace, which is tougher and tougher for entrepreneurs, probably needs some discount to say, what can we get the best people and in this market? So if you need a flavor technologist, that could take maybe up to a year, and the priority has to be going to the sales manager or to the head of marketing. Was thinking about that. So the quick answer, the normal answer is your network and the people that you know. And I have to say, I've kind of come a little bit more full circle on that, even in my own experience of looking for work and being more entrepreneurial. Networks are maybe not the best place, and you have to be careful. What do you push your network for? Who do they really know? And recruitment has completely opened up in the last 5 years in terms of pricing. Indeed is almost free now. What you can get out, and I would say pull back a little. And the other thing is, in your world, in the close world that you have, is that better for money, cash, more intimate relationships, Laura? And maybe the workplace is something where go pure. So getting things out on Indeed, getting things out LinkedIn, $500 buys you a membership where you can put a job on there. So that whole pricing is something that I think is open up, and that's where entrepreneurs should go. The social marketplace. Recruiters typically still cost 25 to 35%, and that is too prohibitive. You can maybe partner with someone, maybe do some exchange and bartering, and get that down for hard jobs to 15 or 20%. But I would say right now, it's a good place to think about. Use the social media, get things out quickly. It's also maybe a little shameless on consulting. It's not a bad place to not an HR-ish person who's not necessarily a recruiter, but can do that now, can do the little bit of the organization, place it on Indeed, do the initial screening, and then make it very easy for you where you're looking at the 5 or 10 candidates at a price point that is, again, at a total of, say, 10% versus 25 or 30. So that's the way we do it. You still want to keep your getting out there. An entrepreneur, I think, wants to always be saying, we're always looking for good people. You kind of have that mindset. It doesn't matter. Someone comes to you, someone throws a name because you're always looking. But so do both. But now it is a hot job market. You're probably going to have to get something listed, go through the resumes, and use those job boards the best that you can. But again, for $99, it's worth the effort. Yeah, I think in one way I would say that be careful not to shift too much. I like that maybe up to 100. In fact, there's some studies, I think we maybe have talked about it, where an entrepreneur or any good business person in charge, it's 200 people that you can know well and intimately. But let's put it at around 100, which is going to be most of our people. Under 100, I would say the CEO, the owners, need to be part of every hiring decision. I just think the first 5, 10, 15, up to maybe not 100, but up to 50, they're all key people. So I would say you never let that go. It's either your final interview, you're setting the spec, you're delegating, but with a close hand. So then the second piece becomes, I would say, the subtle changes as you grow. The CEO becomes less functional and more, is it a cultural fit? So, for example, the marketing person, the salesperson says, you don't know everything about this, or we're starting to get into some niche about how they do their sales management, but and you may not be comfortable with everything. I'm telling you, I like them as a hire. The CEO comes in and says, do they fit with the culture? Do I like everything about them? Do they have those intangibles that work with us? In this case, maybe being more sustainable, the way that they were brought up, or where they went to school, a big public school, Midwestern public school versus an Ivy League school. Both are fine, but that's where I would say the founders, they constantly keep the cultural touch. And in fact, I would say even in big business, even at a Nestle, that was where sometimes the CEO, they would be the last person saying, I think they're a fit with Nestle. Of course, I delegate all of the functional expertise piece of it. The second thing, and last thing I would say, is the founder has to have a little check and balance on. Sometimes hiring managers think only in the job and short term, and they're thinking a little, can this person fit 2 or 3 years down the road? Can this person go to more growth? Can this person go to a little change in tactic that I have in my head, and they're enough of a player? Because I would say many times, even in a small company, functional people hire sometimes too tight. It's always a frustration that you have, they have to be right on. And the founder has to say a little bit, we can take a chance. Or I think we need to wait one more person who has the MBA or a master's in chemical engineering, because that's really where we need to go. So I would say those would be the pieces where they should adapt and change. Very interesting. It's a tough world. In the larger context, it's a specialized recruiting area, and so there are recruiters and big firms that literally specialize in this. It's also, boards are interesting in that it's very much like professional coaches in sports, where there's a little bit of, once you're on a board, that group is always on boards, with pluses and minuses. So I would say to the new entrepreneur that is an area where you do want your network. You do want to go to your lawyer. Can you recommend someone? Is there an interest in being part of a business? What do they bring to the party in terms of a broader landscape? It's a little bit like on a nonprofit board. We like that you're interested in our school, but do you raise money? Or we like that you're interested in our hospital, but what else do you do? So you don't have to pay anything, or you can say to someone, volunteer to be on my board. If they're not open to it, maybe we'll give you some stock later. So you have a lot of flexibility. If the person either says, I'd love to be on it, or if they get kind of like, I need $50,000 a year to be on the board, maybe they're not the right person at that time on your company. But it's a place where you probably do have to network out, but the big diversity comes in, what do you need? It's a banking fundraising time, well, you need a few bankers. A lot of times people, they're not HR people on it, but if it's a time of culture growth, maybe bring in a professor or someone that knows culture and companies. Or it's marketing sales, and which is usually a big thing. Again, be shameless and think about people that can help grow, that are traveling, or in their business, they could touch upon people and situations that could help your business. You really have to be pretty cold and calculating, I would say, on boards of people who fit, and at this stage, entrepreneur growing, who really love or can help my business, as opposed to later on in a bigger business, it's a little bit, I want like a nice diversity of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little legal, a little that. You want people, hey, I'd rather have 4 people in marketing or sales who love the concept, love Italian food, as one of our entrepreneurs, and that's the board, because they're constantly, everywhere they're talking about your business, and they're helping you think through decisions. So that's the way I would look at it. Being a purpose-driven organization is something that Rich and I have spoken about. I think, and importantly in this world today, it is very important for bringing people on. It is more and more studies are showing that's where talent goes. No matter what you do, that you have a sense of purpose, you have a sense of giving back in some ways, and it really, I hate to say it, but it is easy to do. It's just little things, 1% of your sales. It just, in this day and age, helping with the high school, it's there, and candidates are insisting on it now. If you just want to say, I'm a business that's totally in it for profits, I'm obsessed with what it is, it's a beautiful product, but I don't give anything else, even at the smallest level, I think employers are going to go, well, I need to see some part of you that's doing something. And every business can somehow come back to the community. So with that, I think now, which you maybe didn't see 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, is right at the beginning. If you have 4 bullet points about your culture, people, the product, customer service, one, again, is the community. Think of, in the earliest days, what little thing can we give back? I'll give you one very easy example. Whoever joins us, 1 day a month, 1 day a quarter, you're allowed to work in the community. No matter what you do, you give that person time. You've just now had something as purpose. And the last thing I would say is it's so easy to think through the community that you're in, come up with one thing that seems to be happening. Bethesda might be sustainability or helping the schools or doing something, and then you just pick the one thing and build it again right from the beginning. A part of our company is to give back here. The other thing I would lastly push on, and I've seen companies do it, it's very easy if you just think a little bit, what do you connect with? So where we are, the studio today is filming, so a high school has filming needs. We give them 1 day a year, we film something for them. The 2 women in pasta, so they're doing something with gardens, and they support a community garden. If you just take 8 hours and have a little meeting with your team, you find some way that your business has some relationship to something local, and then you just give a little bit back. And the time and the effort is much better than giving cash or just giving a donation, which really I think is becoming a little cynical now. No one wants that. So that's why I would say it's early, it's part, it's maybe a little extra. I didn't think we would have it in our culture now, but let's put it in. And then I think you have to very aggressively, when you talk to people, your little brochure, your first message, candidates, I can tell you, it's now raising up into, I think it's the top 3 now of why people join companies has become mission or the purpose of the organization, way above salary, way above benefits. It's now probably, I think the 3 are learning and development, the job itself and opportunities to grow, and some type of purpose, which, again, it wasn't even on the charts 10 years ago.